Had a chance to look at them. Any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the bills.
So moved.
For support.
I'll second.
Moved and supported that the bills be approved as displayed on pages 9 through 13 of our packet. Are there any questions?
Only one question. How did the dental come out to be $10,000 on the penny?
I don't know. I don't know when they do it. It must do a quarterly payment or something like that.
That's it.
You don't need any follow-up to that question, I assume.
I mean, I can find out for you.
Curiosity.
Okay.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The bills are approved. You also have a statement of revenues and expenditures, and this is the second to the last month of the fiscal year. This does not require a motion. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we'll move on. Next, we have approval of the Treasury Report for February of this year. We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Supported that the Treasury Report February 2016 be approved as distributed. Any questions? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The Treasury Report is received. I do have one question. I would like to just ask Lorinda if you could follow up with Ann, and maybe Ted can answer it. Look on page 20 of the packet. Again, it's regarding the road funds. The way I read this, this is the tax collection that you're still involved with or just completed, the 2015. In our budget, we'll be collecting the 2016-17, correct? So this is truly the fund balance at the point that we've got to operate going into the... Right, and in our budget for both roads and drains, the 2016, December 2016 revenue will eventually be added to this. Okay. Okay. Next item on our agenda is public comment. There is no public present, so I assume we'll move on. Action items. The first action item is approval, a motion to approve the 2016 Wayne County Local Road Initiative, the program for repairing county roads. And this is where Wayne County, 2 years ago, to all the townships in the county, pledged funding. In our case, because of our population, it's $500,000 for a 2-year period, 2015, and we approved $500,000 worth of projects and completed them last year. And then this is for this year. And on page 22, you'll see a complete list that we put together last year, and it was amended a couple of different times last fall, and again at our last meeting. The minutes reflect the amendments. And so basically, this is the plan. It's displayed on page 22 of what we would move forward this year. Everybody's had a chance to look at this, I presume. And the only concern we had at the last meeting when we discussed this is we did not receive from the county the $500,000 reimbursement yet. And I think our director is prepared to give us an update on that this evening. Lorinda?
Yeah. Thank you. We sent an invoice to Wayne County. I don't remember the exact date. It was in February. And we had to revise it. But long story short, the check has been issued, has been approved to be issued. It's now in their finance department, so it's making the rounds in there for signature. So we should get it either next week or the week after for the full amount. Takes a long time, yes.
Well, as I recall,
yes.
I think it's shameful because I think, if I'm correct, we submitted our first request for payment
in November. Yeah.
And of course, they found fault with it was insufficient, they said, and I don't know the details. The township manager dealt with that, maybe you know, Ted, but we adopt this resolution tonight, and I think we should send it to the township board. We should add onto it that I'm not in favor of township board approving this program until we have the money in our hands. I mean, I don't want to... From the last work, so that's my opinion.
I think our motion covers that, pending receipt of the county money for work done in 2015.
There you go.
So we should be okay.
Ted?
Yeah, my suggestion was if we should
board for the meeting of the 4th. I don't think it'll get. The problem with that is that we don't like to see this. So at least we can start the action.
Right, especially given the weather.
So, I guess I would, it pretty well states that paying at least a check number, knowing that it's coming. Hopefully we'll get it by next.
Yeah.
And I suppose your board could also approve a pending receipt of the check, receipt and deposit of the check.
Yeah, I think that would be a way of doing it that way. When that check came in, if it was after our meeting, we could then move ahead and not have to wait for the next meeting. So, but by all means, getting that check before we do anything.
And I think that two comments I have additionally. One is at the last meeting we authorized our engineers for the asphalt portion of the work to go out and seek proposals, which I expect we will have at our April meeting. We also approved the extension of the unit prices from G&V Concrete that gave us, we bid the concrete last year out of about 4 contractors. They were the low bidder. They've agreed to extend their unit price. We accepted their letter. So in my mind, G&V could get started once this is approved. The asphalt work will have to make a recommendation on. But this is all in neighborhoods. Regarding G&V, the only caveat, they could start everywhere except
Grace
Drive by the high school. Last year, we asked them not to start work there until high school was done for the year, and that worked out very well. They moved right in, and I know a couple of years ago we were making repairs on Grace Drive week before high school started, and that was not good. Lorinda's got this well under control. Lorinda and John do right now. Anyway, all right, so is there further discussion on this item, further questions?
I'd like to make a motion. We accept action item number 1.
Second.
That action item is to approve the 2016 Wayne County Local Roads Initiative program list pending receipt of the county money for work done in 2015. No further discussion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is approved. Brenda, you have the floor.
Okay, the first item is yard waste pickup begins April 1st, Friday, April 1st. Please make sure to place your sticks and your leaves in paper yard waste bags or in a 32-gallon container. The weight limit is 50 pounds. We do have yard waste stickers available at the DPS here at Township Hall in case you need to put one on your container. Yard waste will be picked up weekly beginning April 1 and it'll run through December the 15th. Second one is the Wayne County Household Hazardous Waste Collection. That's going to be held this year at the Huron High School on April 23rd from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. We have this posted on our website for a list of items that are acceptable. Also, at the same time, they will be holding an electronics recycling event where they'll be accepting computer, CPUs, monitors, printers, scanners, keyboards, cell phones, fax machines, computers, and televisions. This event will be for one day only, Saturday, April 23rd from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. at the Huron High School parking lot, located at 32044 Huron River Drive in New Boston, Huron Township. This is only open to Wayne County residents, and they will be checking your ID when you're there. And that's all I have.
Bill.
Do you have anything to report on tonight?
No, sir. Ted.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ted.
I was notified Thursday that our Rotary Club is going to have a electronics wastes and shredding event that's going to go hand in hand with the Dump to Junk program here. The shredding event will be a 4-hour event on Saturday. This is all going to be announced. It will be on Grosse Ile TV. but the Rotary Club is sponsoring it and paying for it, and it will include electronic devices. So. And I don't know when the dump to junk is. It's usually
They changed the date. It was going to be Mother's Day weekend, but I haven't heard. They scrapped
whenever that is.
Yeah.
This event is going to take place at the same time.
Very bad weekend.
That sounds good.
You know where that'll be held at?
Pardon?
Where it will be held at?
Over at DPS building. It'll be in conjunction with the dump to junk.
Okay, next we have the two discussion items. Oops, sorry about that.
Where's that gavel? Get that gavel out.
Yeah.
Where were we? Okay, discussion items. I guess Joe and you,
Yep.
you and Lorinda have the floor. This item is a discussion on the gas sensor proposals from Suez Water, which is the firm that operates our wastewater plant, Joe. And we all have in front of us a report regarding placement of the gas sensors. Joe?
Okay, this is part of the this current year's capital replacement plan. The gas detectors are 36 years old. One is not operable. The internal control logic part of it is obsolete. And so we recommended that they be replaced, and to avoid going out, putting together specs and stuff, and as you can see, it's a fairly inexpensive job, even less expensive than I thought it would be, to replace them. And so as part of our contract, just work this in as an additional item to our contract.
Was it 3930?
Something like that, yeah. Yep. So I just wanted to give it up to you guys. It's up to you what you know, if you want to do that or if you want to go out, try to get other quotes on this. But that's where it's at. I mean, it's just...
So can you, for most of us laymen, can you explain a little more what these
Sure.
things do and also what background your firm has with this?
Okay, well, obviously our background with this is we have a maintenance group that has a journeyman electrician, some millwrights, master mechanics, who can do conduit work, and this is just a replace in kind of job, so it would be by the electrician. But what these gas detectors do is they're automatic, and there's two of them. One's in the wet well of the plant, which is where the water first enters the plant down, 40 feet below ground. And the second one is in the primary clarifier room, which is the second place the water hits in the plant. When a gas is detected, it automatically kicks on the ventilation fans for both areas, depending on what alarm gets activated. And they've worked in the past. We had, the mysterious diesel dumping that came in and set those alarms off in the middle of the night. And but that's what they do. It's basically a safety thing for keep the building from exploding.
I think it might be a little critical.
Joe, did you say this was part of our capital?
Yes.
This was in the list of our capital expenditures?
Yes.
Here?
This year?
Okay.
For 2015-16, yes.
All right.
Well, and one is at the primary.
Yes.
Both malfunction?
No, the one in the wet well is still operable. The one in the primary room smoked a few months ago. It just
Joe,
sensor
this
melted.
one that's not been serviceable, how long has it been out?
A couple of months.
It was in the fall when we had this thing smoke.
Just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Is that why it ended up on the list this year?
No, actually, we had an issue a couple years ago where I had replaced the sensor head in it, and when I tried to see if I could get more, that's when I found out that, those were available, but the upstream parts and the controls were all obsolete and would have to be upgraded.
Other questions?
Yes, sir.
Bill?
Joe, do you anticipate any of these assumptions adding to this bill?
No, I don't.
Pretty much we're just,
I think
that's just in
standard
there,
contract language that is, we operate and maintain them as part of the contract, so.
Right. Okay, thank you.
How long do they last? I mean, how old are the current ones?
The current ones, the one is 35 years old. Now, we've replaced the sensor heads
Shouldn't ask that question.
on these things, but it is 35 years old, and the other one made almost that long.
They last 35 years.
Really?
34 and a half.
Thanks for that input, and leave the gavel alone.
$3.50 a year isn't bad.
No.
Is that sensor, does that also say hydrogen sulfide?
No, these are strictly explosive gas detectors.
Is there one in a wet well that senses hydrogen sulfide?
No. It's hydrogen sulfide, for one's usually not a problem on a gravity system. But we have personal gas detectors for that.
It
you know,
was
if we had
at
an
one
issue.
time.
It might have been, and again,
Bob McAkron, he was overcome by hydrogen sulfide, and he was down in that wet well. And I was the fireman that went down there and threw him over my shoulder and got halfway up the stairs, and then I was overcome.
that's what I recall that.
Next thing I knew, I was in the hospital.
Well, unless you raise a good point, to me this seems like a safety issue, and we talked about this a couple months ago, that some of these things trickle in over a long period of time, Joe, and if it's a safety issue, I think we want to know about it right away. So I guess it's here. I don't know what the inclination of the commission is. We could defer this and act on it next month, or we could change it from a discussion item. I don't think anybody's going to get upset if we made an action item and we chose a path to go. You're saying by your firm doing it, chances are we're going to save at least 10-15% by the time we go out and bid it and delay it further. My personal view is I'd be in favor of converting this to an action item and adopting a motion and authorizing you to proceed. And I don't know that, given the dollar amount, this is something that they can just purchase. It doesn't have to go to the township board or anything. Am I correct on that?
I would think that you'd want to put it through as an action item, as an emergency repair, and just move forward with the project. That's an emergency repair.
That'd be
We can
my
operate
opinion.
up
It's
to
a safety
$5,000.
issue. And if
Doesn't even have
one's
to
not
go
working.
forward from here.
So-
Just do it.
I would like to make a motion, we move it to an action item.
I want to second that.
Okay, to complete your motion, move it to an action item, and what? And to authorize
And authorize Joe, his
So-
firm, to go ahead and do it.
As an emergency repair.
for the $3,930 as an emergency repair.
Correct.
Okay. Now that we have the wording, I think
That's supported.
Jim Budney supported it?
Nelson
Jim
did.
Nelson.
Nelson did.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, Joe, that was easy.
Okay. All right. The next thing I got is we finally received the pre-public notice permit, draft permit for, our permit renewal, which actually our permit expired in 2012. So with the ACO, there's been a lot of negotiation going on with MDEQ, and kind of surprisingly, they brought this, as popped out. It would take effect in October of this year. It'll be an off-cycle permit. Normally, they're every 5 years, and we're in the Lake Erie, Detroit River Basin, and they're all timed on the same cycle. But because we're so far out of whack, and they don't want to delay this much longer, and part of it is to our favor, because one of the big changes in this permit is the loadings for suspended solids and CBODs. Because of our high flows, they've changed it's basically a mathematical calculation based on the concentration and flow. Concentration of the suspended solids, or CBOD, and flow. The higher the flow, the higher the loading. This permit, they have with OHM's doing some work, they calculate out we can handle a 7-day average flow of 5.2 million gallons a day, and these new loadings are based on that. And the frequency of any loading violations will diminish.
Joe, can you point that out on one of these pages?
I can do that. The
Page
one
28 or 29?
Yep, 28. Basis for design. This is our permit limits. And right there, carbonation, biochemical oxygen demands, the second one down. And total suspended solids is the one below that. And the bolded numbers are the new limits. So these are good for us. Further down, you'll see in bold also the di-N-butyl phthalate. We had a hit. It showed up. And one of the comments I'm doing to the DQ on this letter that will go out under Lorinda's signature by the end of the week is we're going to ask that it be removed or significantly reduced, because that chemical is a plasticizer that they've been phasing out of consumer products for the past 20 years. And I think it was just some sort of laboratory fluke that this thing actually hit. You know, and everything is non-detect. And because it was a very low number, but because it hit, they decided they're going to put it in to at least make us monitor for it, although they got a limit after a year. So I don't know what to do. Hopefully they'll take it out and just leave it in our annual 4 times every permit cycle. We actually test for these odd methyl ethyl double death kind of things. So that's one of the comments I'm going to make.
On the same page, Joe.
Yes.
Where it says on the bottom, the 12-month rolling average were mercury. It looks like because the number from a decimal standpoint is smaller.
Yes.
Reading it right.
Okay.
That negatively affects us.
Well, it could, but historically, we have not violated that lower number, and that's basically based on all the facilities in the state. This 5.0 seems to be the level, what they call the level currently achievable for mercury, and everybody else became in 2009 is when it went into effect for every place. You know, once all permits after that went into effect, saw this new lower limit.
Okay,
it won't affect us.
So the first 12-month rolling average says it's pounds per day. The second one is NG per
that's
L.
concentration, and that's parts per trillion. It's extremely low-level mercury.
So you don't anticipate having to do anything different or buy anything extra to help with this?
No. The only sources of mercury we have on this island are the dental offices. And we've had hits. We also quarterly we monitor the influent with a regular standard mercury test that tests in parts per billion. When we get hits there, we go up and sample outside the dentist's office. And when we do that, we haven't had to do this in a while. Barry was here last when we did this, but we send letters basically threatening to shut them down if they don't clean and maintain their mercury capture systems. And it's worked because they usually take care of it right away.
Ted and Jim, is this the same permit that involves all the requirements of the township?
Yes.
Basically. I would suggest, Jim, I don't know if you got any thoughts, I would suggest that before we take any action on this, that we call a meeting together with the attorney that we've hired out of Lansing, or out of Southfield, OHM, and C.E. Rain's company, have our discussion to see if this is, because we've taken a lot of action to get this to happen. I'm not sure it's where everybody wants it to be. I know you're pretty happy with it.
With the loading things, yes,
But I think because we've gone as far as we've gone with the current legal advice we've been getting and with 2 engineering groups looking at this thing, I think before it comes back to commission for recommendation on action, that recommendation should come from that group.
Yeah, well, you know, Ted,
No, I agree with Ted. With all the hours that we've put in working on these various things, it certainly would be I think the smart thing to do.
Okay, can I caution?
well, Joe, before you go there, let me make a comment.
Okay.
To date, our commission, because of the township board, at one point this was elevated to the township board jurisdiction. There was threat litigation, and you went and hired your own attorney. This commission has not been engaged, and I think that was planned that way because we'll need 2 bodies looking at information: the township manager, the township attorney, the township board, and your special attorney have been working on this. So it's good that we know this, but I'm suggesting maybe it ought to stay the way it is and that this commission not take any action on it, leave it up to you. We would just do anything we have to do, such as an asset management plan, such as a sewer evaluation, whatever, that we already have a budget. Just suggesting maybe we shouldn't take any action unless you think it's something.
I'm waiting to hear what Joe has to say. He's cautioning us about something.
Okay.
Our pre-public comments are due a week from yesterday, so Monday. We have to have these comments in. As soon as we got this stuff, I forwarded it to Lorinda and Sahil, and so I talked with Lorinda and I said, talk to Sahil, you might want to get this and get any comments back from Vito at OHM, and I haven't heard anything.
You need to push this.
Yeah, we pushed it, as soon as we got it, and we've only had, this came the Monday I was on vacation, so 2 weeks ago. And like I said, the day I got it, I forwarded it to her.
Oh, that's why I would like to have this attorney. It sounds like they're pressuring us now and putting the ball back in our court. And I think all of those entities need to, whether you do it by telephone or whether you do it by meeting, you got the rest of this week.
Right.
To come up with something, either by telephone to get a consensus, because I don't like the idea of them giving it to us and then giving us 2 or 3 weeks to react to something that we have gone so far as to hire an attorney and spend a lot of money to do that, to move this forward. If we don't operate under his direction or the engineer's direction, shame on us, because we just wasted the money. That's my opinion.
So how long is this permit for?
It'll be 5 years, 2021.
Well, we haven't been involved directly in it. I'm suggesting we just leave it that way.
Can I add one thing here, though? The attorney is involved with the ACO. The permit, they wanted to push the permit through the ACO. I had a conversation with Doug early today. They are still working on our last proposal that OHM sent them about, design flows and how much we would need to capture.
Hey, Joe, I respect you and I trust you 100%. But I don't want to be hearing this from the operator of a plant. I want to be hearing it from the attorney.
Okay.
And it could be done by a simple phone call. If they say if this has no variance or bearing on the ACO, then I don't have a problem with it. But I don't think you should make that decision. I don't think I should make that decision. We've got a lot of people out there that should be making this decision for us.
I understand.
All right, well, earlier in the discussion, you made a comment, I think, that you were pleased with the new limits.
With the loading limits for the suspended, that's a tremendous amount of our violations have been suspended solids loading.
It would seem to me that at a minimum, you ought to convey that to township manager.
I think that phone call should take place with Joe, the manager, Vito, Ohio, whether it be in a formal meeting or whatever.
So you need to make sure you do that. That's my suggestion. And unless somebody has another, I'd suggest that as far as the ACO and this, not in our jurisdiction, your boys, township board.
If it's sat for 2 weeks, it's sat too long. We should have been looking at this with the attorneys and with the engineers for this, but we still have time. It's not like we're dead in the water here.
So I'm going to propose we receive your report. Thank you for it. And,
Okay.
and assume that you're going to convey your sentiments to the township manager.
Yes, I will talk to Dale tomorrow.
Do you have any objection to that?
Nope.
How's this end of the table?
I mean, you're talking about a 5-year plan here.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that, are you complete with that?
I think so. The only other thing that I want to comment on in the pre-public notice is our percent removals. They kept those the same. We still have violations with that, and that's just basically when water comes in so clean, they expect us to remove 85% of the pollutants. After washouts, like what we've just experienced, we have days where what's coming in theory, we could just send right out because it meets the limits as far as concentration.
All right, so what they're asking us for is our comments on these by Monday?
Yes.
And that certainly could be part of that. But again, I think we need to take that through OHM and the engineers.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe. Next item is Chairman's report. I just have one comment for tonight. You recall in the minutes and at our last meeting, we discussed the fact that this year, when the county prepared its needs list regarding roads, and this is the list of roughly 200 projects listed in priority, about when they would become eligible for grant funding. Out of 200 projects, they've been doing about 14 projects a year, assuming each one is about a mile, about 14 miles. And this covers everything from the Grosse Points to Plymouth and Canton and Brownstown and Sumter Township and all the way to Grosse Hill and so forth. So the whole of Wayne County. You know that if we look at the old needs list in 2012, 13, 14, and 15, Meridian Road was on the needs list. We actually backed up in 2014 to 15 and went from in the 70s to an 80 numbers. But Meridian Road was on the needs list, and it was on the needs list from Grosse Hill Parkway all the way to beyond Church. And that would be to resurface it. And it would be eligible for federal funding, 8%. We've had that discussion many times. This year, in December, am I right, in December, when they approved, the Federal Aid Committee saw the needs list, Meridian was no longer on it. Gone. So we asked Lorinda to look into it, and the county highway engineer provided us all with some kind of song and dance report, and that didn't make any sense to me. And so he's assured Lorinda, and I'm going to ask you to comment on it, Lorinda, that it's going to be corrected, basically. Is that right?
He was going to get with whoever the engineers were that determined the criteria for it, and that was a month ago when I asked him about it.
So at any
He's going to look into it.
He was going to look into it, so it might be a few more months before I hear back from him.
So, I've gotten pretty worked up over the county over the years, and most of us have. And I've been thinking about it. Rather than get worked up, the county has a new public services director that's over a number of things. One of them is roads, also over permits. And, one thing that we've always asked our engineers to do is, well, you go talk to the county. Well, they're engineers, and they're consulting engineers, even our own staff. We can't keep sending them to go talk to the county because they can't compromise their position. They have to work with the county. We don't. We're not political officials, but we're sort of quasi-political. So my thought is this, and I want to get your thoughts. I was thinking, and we're not going to do our road tour this year because we already have our program and we don't have any other money. And maybe we ought to do a roads tour. Maybe we ought to assess, and I'd like to assess how our chip seal program Just this evening, I drove all the roads except Horse Mill, and I remember what they were like. I know, Phil, you use one of them, and East River Road, I swear, is much, much better than it was. And it's going through the winter in good shape, grows in good shape. So we need to assess that, because I heard a lot of criticism of the program at the time of our ballot proposal. But here's my idea. Rather than complain about the county, they have a public services director. I'd like to invite the new public services director. It's female, and maybe even Mr. Evans, but certainly maybe I'm going too far with that. Maybe the public services director, the county highway engineer, and a couple of his key staff people. Maybe somebody from the permits office. I don't have that figured out yet. To one of our meetings, but I'd like to invite them in the afternoon to come and say, we'd like to have a presentation about Meridian Road and have you comment about what's going on with highway funding. There's a new state highway bill, and I'm going to pursue this. And the County Association of Road Commissions must have by now projected what the revenues are going to be in 2017, 2018, and 2020, how much more money each county is going to receive from what they were receiving this year. So I'm going to pursue that. But my thought is, maybe we invite them to come here and sit with us. But before we sit at our regular meeting, we invite them to come late afternoon for dinner with us. And before that, maybe a few of us somehow drive around some of the key roads. Look at East River, West River, Meridian, because I bet you, particularly the new public service director, has never been on the island. And I'd like to put him on the spot. And I was trying to figure out, well, do we just do this with the township manager and supervisor? We ought to include the supervisor in this. But we could invite them all to one of our meetings. Could be the June meeting or July meeting. At this point, it doesn't matter. And we can't all drive together. We know that. That's ineffective. But if a few of us could show them around and drive the roads, and then come up with and I want to give more thought to this, a list of what we'd like them to talk about. They could make a presentation on the needs list. They could answer our questions about Meridian. They could talk about the new federal highway bill, what that's going to mean for them. Something pretty meaty. There's a new federal highway bill that's going to take effect next year. It's not much more money, but it's at least a 5 or 6 year bill. So you understand my point? I know I'm throwing this on the table, but what are your thoughts?
I think it's always a good idea to talk, especially when you have new people in, as the county does. It never hurts. If anything comes out, they're going to think of the people that talk to them first, I think. So I think it's a good idea. To sit down and hash these things out, and even talk to them about not only what is in place now, but what about doing something different. Something's got to be done. I mean, they must know this. They must hear this all the time regarding roads, and maybe we can figure out something so that we can get some help.
Okay. Well,
When we had a road committee, we used to have a dinner with the county, a luncheon,
right,
every year. And John Neidhart, God rest his soul, he was the chairman of the road committee. He would say, that's when we grease them. And we got a lot of things accomplished when we had those lunches. And we had the head of maintenance and head of the county roads and stuff. And we got an awful lot of stuff done just by taking these guys to lunch.
Yeah. And I caught the tail end of that, Les, a couple of times. I think John did. And yeah, it was good. And I guess my only comment is there were some pretty good people in those days that cared about doing the right thing. And I don't want to say the wrong thing, but I think that those good people are gone.
Oh, I know they are. Because when we had a luncheon over at Water's Edge, what they did is they paved the road from West River up a certain way. But it was how they did it narrowly. Then when they did Bellevue from Meridian all the way over to meet this, they did it with the wider lanes that they put in. And I can't remember his name, but it says, we need to put the shoulders on that, because you come up to this section of road and it drops down 2 feet on either side. He said, what are you talking about? So he went out and got a golf cart and we went for a ride, and he says, now I know what you're talking about. So when they got through, they paved all the approaches going to the water's edge, and they did a beautiful job.
Well, so, okay, you'd be in favor of doing something, I don't know, Phil?
I think
Especially with new people in the.
Well, I think that we got to remember we're in competition with a lot of other communities, and the more we can make them aware of us and our particular situation and do it on a friendly basis, the old saying is, squeaky wheel gets the grease. Sure, I think it's a good idea.
Okay, well, I don't have Ted, you haven't made a comment. You haven't made a comment. We always look for your comments.
Any communication you can have with
All right. Should we, if we do such a thing, we could certainly invite the township board to join us.
Yeah. I think you don't want to get too many people. You get people that are away from this commission, and then it starts getting to be political.
That's a good point, then. All right. So, township manager? Sure. And what if we did it before and then have their presentation be part of our regular meeting? So there might be, say, 3 or 4 county officials, township manager, leave it at that. Not too big a group.
Right. No, that's.
I'll work on an agenda then and bring it back to our next meeting. If we're going to do something, we probably looking at our July meeting or something like that. Certain people would have to get off the golf course a little earlier.
That was another thing, Bill, that we would have the luncheon, and anybody wanted to go play golf at Water's Edge.
I know, you do that, but we're not going to do that. But my thought is, let's drive a few key roads with a few key people, come in, have a sandwich before our meeting, and then have our meeting and have a specific, ask them to specifically address some of the new funding bills and Meridian Road.
I agree.
All right. So we're going to plan on doing that? Okay. So that's the chairman's report. We'll go around the table. We'll start with Ed. Les.
I just have a question to John. Have you heard back from that email? The way Grosse Ile Parkway is platted? No. No other comment?
So I know the issue. Are you looking at something, the way it was platted?
Signage, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, is somebody doing...
It's a response.
I'm sorry, would you clarify what's...
Email response.
I saw that where they were saying it won't be changed.
Correct.
Les, did you think that somebody's going to do something? We got a response.
John sent an email to somebody saying that the signage should be changed to the way the road is platted, not the way somebody changed the name unofficially.
Well, Les brings it up every meeting. Where are we with it? Nowhere?
No.
They're not going to change it. The county's not going to change it?
Change it, no.
And we talked about us just changing it. And Les, I remember some discussion about maybe just going to the post office, and that is more cumbersome, right?
You know, it's a funny thing. Everybody gets mail on that street, and it all says Grosse Ile Parkway on it. Doesn't say Parkway Drive.
Should we? What's the easiest solution? Change the sign to Grosse Ile Parkway?
Find a guy that said he didn't want to change it and string him up.
Should one?
Wow.
Well, I don't want to keep leaving this unresolved. Is the answer, John? We once talked about getting a street sign made. Once talked about getting a street sign made that says Grosse Ile Parkway and replacing it where it says Gross.
We need 4 of them.
Is that a solution? It's an expensive solution. Do we have the ability to change with your equipment the sign? Well, perhaps this is something we should discuss after the meeting.
10-4.
Change the signs. The audience watching, we're trying to clarify a mail delivery problem for a few homes that exist east of Meridian on Grosse Ile Parkway. That front along the side road that is also Grosse Ile Parkway, but it's called Grosse Ile.
No,
It's called Parkway
The
Drive.
sign says Parkway Drive.
Parkway Drive. And so we're just trying to clarify it, and the county won't cooperate. We'll follow up on it.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to make a note. Phil?
No comment.
No comment after that. John?
Nothing further at this time.
Jim? Nelson?
Bill, I'd just like to thank you tonight for all the attention that you've given me on public TV. Thank you very much.
Where's the gavel?
Out of order.
Not allowed to get near it.
Ron?
Quick question for John. How's the pickup truck working out, the new truck? Excellent. Good. That's it.
Budney?
I'm all set, thank you.
Any other, John, comments from you? No, Lorinda?
Nope, done.
Entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
Support?
Wow, look at this.
This is Bill's record.
Our next meeting will be April 12th.
All in favor?
Meeting's adjourned.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.